My daughter was absolutely sure her dad died in Alaska. Then, on her very first real vacation by the ocean, she pointed at a very alive man at our boarding gate and calmly said, "Mom, look, that's Dad. My name's Emily. I'm 35. I live in the States, and officially I'm a widow. In reality, I'm that person who finds herself arguing with an 8-year-old about whether the dead man in front of us is actually dead. There's this guy standing by the gate for our flight to Miami. Baseball cap, sunglasses, broad shoulders. Next to him, a perfectly put-together blonde in her mid-20s who looks like she's already tired of the entire planet. He says something. She rolls her eyes. His profile. The way he shifts his weight. The way his hand cuts the air when he talks. My stomach drops like an elevator with cut cables, and I clamp down on my suitcase handle. "Danny," I say as evenly as I can. "Dad died. You know that." "I know," she shrugs. "But that's him. He just doesn't know he died yet." So that's where we're starting. For context, my daughter's dad, Brian Carter, officially died 3 years ago on a frozen lake somewhere outside Anchorage, Alaska. Danny was 5 then. She barely remembers. I remember everything. That day he was flying out too. "Quick work trip, Em, just a few days. Big opportunity. You said you wanted me to grow." His boss, Richard, had hooked him up with a trip far from the noise. Some project in Alaska. Check equipment, meet a client, and of course ride snowmobiles, because apparently no grown man can refuse the chance to go play on thin ice. Brian was always chasing growth. When we first started dating, it was cute. Late-night Zoom calls, coffee by the gallon, goal lists magneted to the fridge. Then Danny was born, and instead of easing off the gas, he floored it. First, there were work trips around the States. Then, a conference in Cancun. Then another one. Then he started coming home with new watches, new gadgets, and that one line. "Em, this is an investment in our future. In a couple of years, we'll laugh at this loan." Spoiler, nobody laughed. He got himself mixed up with a group of private investors. High interest, fast cash. No boring banks, just winners and opportunity. A year later, opportunity showed up at our door in the form of 2 very polite men who made it clear the money needed to come back, preferably yesterday. I didn't know then that he owed them more than our house was worth. Brian decided not to burden me with that info, but when they really tightened the screws, he went to the police. "They said it's a civil matter," he told me later, in that hotel bar in Miami, holding his glass like it was the only solid thing in his life. "Like a dispute between adults. Call 911 when they're actually killing you." But we're not in that bar yet. After that Alaska trip, it was Richard who called me. His voice had that tone people use when they talk about highway crashes. "Emily, there was an accident. Snowmobile. Ice. Search and rescue. They never found the body, but everyone understands." I don't remember how I ended up on the floor. I just remember Danny walking around me asking, "Mom, is Dad still in another country?" Then came the paperwork, the condolences, a small life insurance payout, and eventually an official death certificate. Police, search and rescue, all those serious people said the same thing. The chance of surviving that environment is basically 0. And I believed them, because the alternative was worse, believing he was alive and simply choosing not to come back. For 3 years, I lived like someone had hit mute on my house. Work, preschool, now elementary school, bills, no vacations, no dates, no girls' nights. Just me and Danny and this heavy, quiet grief that sat between us at the dinner table. I told her that her dad was a guy who explored new places, and one day, one of those places turned out to be stronger than him. Beautiful little legend, right up until your explorer shows up at your boarding gate to Miami. On the plane, he's 2 rows ahead of us. Danny gets her sad plastic apple juice and leans over. "Mom, it's him. Look how he holds his head." I look. I keep talking myself down. This guy has a different cap, different phone, a tattoo on his wrist Brian never had. "It's just somebody who looks like him," I say. That happens. Danny sighs, buries her face in her stuffed shark, and lets it go. Temporarily. I don't. I stare at the back of his seat for an hour and a half and think about how death is apparently not the most reliable thing in this world. Miami meets us with humid heat, palm trees, and lines everywhere. The classic American vacation circus, kids high on sugar, adults high on margaritas, everyone one minor inconvenience away from snapping. We get to the hotel, join the line at the front desk, Danny's half asleep on my shoulder, and then I hear it. "Are you kidding me, Brittany? You knew this was a family resort." I can't see him, just the sound. Calm, tired, with that familiar, I'm about to lose it but still pretending I won't, edge. That's exactly how Brian sounded when 3-year-old Danny announced that broccoli was deadly poison. A blonde, Brittany apparently, comes flying out from behind a column and hisses, loud enough for half the lobby to hear. "You said Ocean View, Brian! This is a zoo!" He steps out after her. A kid runs past. He turns his head to keep from stepping on him, and that's when I see it. The face. No cap, no glasses, the same small mole on his cheek, the same jawline I've kissed more times than I can count. I don't have maybe anymore. I have one clear fact. My dead husband is standing in the lobby, arguing with his new girlfriend, and he looks very not drowned. I do the only logical thing. I turn away and pretend to be deeply fascinated by the rack of discount excursion brochures. I nearly don't sleep that night. Danny passed out 40 minutes into some cartoon about dolphins. I stare at the ceiling and run through 2 scenarios. Scenario A. It wasn't him. I've lost my mind, which, to be fair, is not shocking after 3 years of grief. I relax, eat hotel breakfast, swim, and we just have a plain, normal first vacation. We go home with a couple hundred photos and that's it. Roll credits. Scenario B. It was him. Brian. Alive, tan, with Brittany, who has no idea her boyfriend is legally dead. Then I have to decide. Do I pretend I never saw him, go back to my dead husband version of reality? Or do I step straight into his new life and ask one simple question? Seriously, Brian? Scenario A sounds calmer and a lot more cowardly, and I am very, very tired of being cowardly for both of us. The next day, the universe decides for me. Danny and I are on the beach. She's building a sandcastle. I'm pretending to read while actually scanning every male silhouette within 100 yards. The music by the pool cuts off mid-song. Then, "Is there a doctor here? Somebody call 911. I look up. Crowd by the pool. Hand waving. A woman screaming. Brittany. Danny clutches my hand. "Mom! It's Dad!" I don't think. I run. There's a man on the tiles by the pool, his cap's off, sunglasses on the ground. He's white as the concrete, breathing in short little gasps. Brittany is full-on hysterical, and the teenage lifeguard looks like he's about to pass out himself. Apparently, my body remembers my basic first aid course better than I do. Back up, I hear myself say. Give him some space. I drop to my knees. Pulse. There. Fast. Breathing. Shallow. Eyes. Closed. Smell. Hotel sunscreen and too much alcohol. Brian, I whisper, not even sure I'm saying it out loud. If you die on me a second time, I swear to God I'll kill you myself. His eyes snap open. We just stare at each other. In his face I see pain, panic, and something like, of course this is happening today. Emily. He exhales. You know her? Brittany instantly rounds on me. Who is she? I would love to say, his wife, Brittany. The actual one. The legal one, if we're being picky. Instead, I stand up. I just helped, I tell her, then to the lifeguard, in normal, steady English. Did you call 911? He nods, wide-eyed. I walk away while Brian is still lying there, watching me leave. He finds me that night. Danny is out cold upstairs with a cartoon humming in the background. I go down to the hotel bar just to be not mom for 15 minutes. I pick a corner table, order club soda with lime, and try to pretend my life is not a soap opera. I'd know that voice if he talked to me from another continent. I look up. Standing there is Brian Walker, his new legal name. But under that, it's still Brian Carter, just with deeper lines on his face and a damaged liver. He sits across from me without asking. You okay? I ask first, because it's both the dumbest and the politest thing you can say to a man who faked his own death and then almost passed out by the pool. Yeah. Heat, alcohol, and guilt all at once. He rasps out a laugh. He trails off, staring past me. You're alive, I say. That's already an achievement. We sit in silence for a minute. Someone behind me orders a margarita pitcher. Baseball plays on the TV above the bar. Totally normal American vacation night, if you ignore the part where I'm talking to my dead husband. How long have you known? He finally asks. What a question. That you're alive? I echo. Since you opened your eyes by the pool and said my name. Slightly before that, I had suspicions. He gives a crooked smile. I deserve that. You have no idea how much, I say. Okay, let's do this. I put my hands flat on the table. You get one shot to explain what the hell happened in Alaska. He nods, takes a sip of his water like it's whiskey. Okay, remember those guys I borrowed money from? I remember. Back then he called them private investors. Now he's more honest. Loan sharks, he says. No normal bank would touch me anymore. I'd screwed up a couple deals, and they did not care about my feelings. The amount kept growing like dough in the oven. They started showing up at the office, calling, hinting at things. I went to the police. They said, civil matter. I finish for him. I know that line way too well. It's a civil matter, sir. Call 911 if they actually threaten you. Yeah. He nods. And I believed that if I stayed, they'd eventually find me in an alley somewhere. And you... His hands clench. You too would be next. So your best idea was to drown? I ask. Not pay. Not get a lawyer. Not tell your wife. Just disappear into a snowstorm? It wasn't... He stumbles. It wasn't that simple, Em. Richard. He suggested the trip to Alaska. Said, take a break, clear your head. There was a real client. I went. He stares off somewhere over my shoulder. There was this frozen lake. They offered to go out on snowmobiles, and I realized I had an out. They stayed by the lodge. I went out alone, left my helmet and gloves closer to a crack in the ice, came back around to shore, got into a car I'd booked ahead of time, rode straight into Anchorage. Phone, cards, everything. I left it on the ice. He stops. I picture it. White everywhere, the sound of ice. My husband deciding it's easier to die on paper than admit to me he's in over his head with criminals. Search and rescue found the snowmobile, he says quietly. Broken ice. My stuff. Richard called you. He shuts his eyes for a second. I sat in a crappy motel, watched the news, and listened to everyone talk like I was basically gone. But you weren't, I say. You were very much not gone. For 3 whole years. Just not where your daughter and I were. He nods. I took a new name. Walker. Got a job in another state. Rebuilt my documents. At first I thought it was temporary. Until things cooled off. Then, he lifts one shoulder. Then months went by. I'd check your profile. I saw you with Danny. Saw you holding it together. Every time I almost reached out, I thought, what do I say? Hey, it's me. I didn't actually drown, but now you're a widow on paper and the IRS is gonna have questions? He lets out a bitter laugh. So I put it off. And Brittany? I ask. He looks away. She came later. About a year after. She doesn't know about any of this. I told her I'd been in a bad marriage. We split. I didn't come here to justify anything. I was a coward. I cheated on you way before the Alaska thing. That conference in Cancun, it wasn't all slides and networking. His mouth twists. I'm not asking you to understand. His voice cracks. When I saw Danny at the gate, I realized I can't keep pretending I don't exist. I thought maybe I'd get a chance to explain. Explain to who? I ask. To me? Or to her? He's quiet for a long time. To Danny, he finally says. I probably lost any right to ask you for anything, but can I at least try to tell her I'm alive? That I'm not the hero you painted, but also not the total monster I feel like? Anger hits me in a clean, hot wave. You want to tell my daughter that her dad didn't die. He just picked living somewhere else for 3 years? I ask. You think that's going to be great for her mental health? He grabs the only argument he has. Those guys are gone. That company they used, it went down like 2 years ago. Fraud, money laundering, all that. Feds took them out. Nobody's coming anymore. I could have come back. He breaks off. But you didn't, I finish. Because you were ashamed. Because you had a new life. I look straight at him. The good news, Brian. Shame means you do technically have a conscience. The bad news, it doesn't actually help anyone. We sit there, not speaking. The bar TV switches to another game. Somebody laughs near the counter. You want to meet her? I ask, surprising even myself. He nods, slowly this time. Yeah, but only if you think it won't break her all over again. I stare into my glass, watch the ice melt. Danny has been living with a dead hero for 3 years. If I do nothing, someday she's going to add things up herself. Google, social media, whatever. And it'll be 100 times worse. If I do this, her world shatters now, but maybe rebuilds stronger. Okay, I say. One chance. One conversation. And we do it by my rules. The next day, I tell Danny an old friend of Dad's is coming to see us. Yes, I know this is version 3 of the story. Welcome to adulthood. We're constantly rewriting our fairy tales. He used to work with Dad, I explain. Same company. He knew him well. Danny gives me a suspicious look but nods. We pick a small beach cafe. She pokes at her ice cream. I shred a napkin into confetti. Brian shows up 5 minutes late. T-shirt, jeans, no cap. He walks up to our table and stops. Danny looks up. The whole world holds its breath. "Hey, Danny," he says. His voice shakes. He flicks his eyes over to me. "Mind if I sit?" Danny glances at me, then back at him. When she speaks, her voice is very calm. "Mom, that's Dad." No doubt. No, he looks like. Kids don't usually doubt the people they love. Everything in me tightens, but I nod. "Yeah, sweetheart," I say. It's him. And that's it. No dramatic reveal, no prepared speech. Just a table, 3 chairs, and a little girl who has spent 3 years waiting for someone she thought was gone. Brian sits. Danny watches him like he's an astronaut who just walked out of the TV. Then she slowly climbs off her chair, walks around the table, and climbs right into his lap. "You smell like Dad," she announces. "Like deodorant." I half choke, half laugh into my coffee. "Danny," Brian whispers. I made a lot of really stupid choices. The stupidest one was not being with you. You have every right to be mad. You don't have to say anything to me, but I'm here. I'm alive. And if you want me, I'll be there." Danny studies him for a couple more seconds. Then she leans her head on his chest. "I'm not mad," she says. "I thought you died. You were just dumb. That's better." I turn to look out the window, because if I watch them any longer, I'll fall apart. They sit like that for 10 minutes. He whispers how much he missed her. She tells him about school, about her teacher, about how much she hates broccoli. "Like you, remember?" I hear them both laughing. Real laughter, without that dull grief edge. At some point, he looks up at me. His eyes are a mess of guilt and gratitude. I just nod. "Congratulations, Emily. You scheduled a play date with a ghost." The rest of the vacation is weird. Sometimes we walk together, all 3 of us. Beach, ice cream, terrible souvenir shops. Danny is glued to his arm like she's trying to make up 3 missing years in 3 days. Sometimes I leave them alone and go walk the boardwalk by myself. For the first time in 3 years, I feel like I'm allowed to do that. Brittany gives me a couple of looks like I personally stole not just her boyfriend, but her youth. I'd love to explain I didn't come here for a man at all. I came because I finally scraped together enough money to take my kid to the ocean. But that's not a conversation you have by the pool bar. She never actually finds out the truth. Brian eventually ends things with her. I don't know if it's because of me or because he finally ran into his own past face first. Honestly, I don't care. On our last night, we sit on the balcony of my room. Danny is asleep inside, wrapped around her shark. Brian says, "I know I don't have the right to ask for much, but when we get back, maybe we could try again. I'll move closer, get a normal job, talk to a lawyer, a pastor, whoever. I'm ready to fix whatever I can." I look at him, at the same man who once brought me flowers and promised we'd grow old together, at the same man who decided pretending to drown was easier than telling me the truth. at the father of my daughter, who is sleeping 10 feet away and smiling in her sleep for the first time in years. Brian, I sigh, you can't fix the past. But the future, he starts. The future, yeah. I nod. With Danny. I meet his eyes. But not with me. He's quiet. His face goes through everything at once. Hurt, exhaustion, and a strange kind of relief, like he's been waiting for this no and hoping for a yes at the same time. I don't love you like I did back then, I say, steady. I care. I feel sorry for you. I'm grateful you gave me Danny, but I can't live again with a man who once chose to die on paper instead of live honestly with me. He nods slowly. I get it, he whispers. I'll be there for her. I promise. He gives a small, sad smile. This time, without Alaska. We sit quietly. Down below, people laugh, music plays. Some guy argues about parking. Regular Miami vacation soundtrack. And I realize I'm not a widow anymore. And I'm not a wife. I'm just Emily, Danny's mom, a woman who outlived her husband, then outlived his resurrection, and somehow didn't lose her mind. Honestly, not a bad outcome. About a month after we get home, Brian moves to our city, rents an apartment not far from us, gets a normal job, finds an attorney to untangle the legal nightmare of his death. I don't handle any of that. I have my own to-do list. Work, a mortgage, a third grader, therapy sessions on Zoom. Danny sees him on weekends. They go to the park, the movies, the science museum. Sometimes he picks her up from school and the other moms look at him, then at me. One finally asks, I thought your husband... Long story, I say, smiling. Trust me. Some nights, after Danny crashes from another, Dad taught me how to ride with no hands today. Hi. I sit at the kitchen table with my mug of tea and wonder if I made the right call. Could I have done it differently? Sure. Do I want it to be different? Sometimes, yeah. Mostly the part where he doesn't disappear in Alaska. For everything else? No, I let my daughter's father back into her life. I did not let him back into mine. And that is probably the most honest thing I've ever done, for him, for her, and for myself. Did I go too far or not far enough? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for more stories like this.